Oh, I'm flying weed. Oh.
Just in case anyone's wondering about what these are for, the strength in a can is all to do with its shape. When you've got one can forced over another, and what I do is I put hot glue around here, then I present the two cans together. They won't go together, of course, because the hot glue cools too quickly. Then I use a hot air gun to gently warm. There we go, here's my hot air gun, to gently warm both these cans. That melts the glue, and then one can go over the top of the other. The problem that you face when you do that is the strength. If you don't have strength in the mid portion of the can here, the whole thing will collapse. And I've discovered that by experimentation. So what I've been doing is I've been cutting discs like this, and I'll push them up to mid can like that. Well, sorry, first thing I do is drill this end out, then I push this up to mid can. This is before I cut anything out. That then supports the middle portion of the can, and then I hot glue and press them together. And once they're hot glued and pressed together, it's actually quite a useful, I'll just push these two together, and you probably won't be able to see, but I've been able to push that can right in up to there, which is about 8 millimeters. And then at that point these things lock together quite nicely. If your fuselage has got a little bit of bend into it, you can reheat these and just gently apply a little bit of sideways pressure to them, and you will actually correct that bend. The other thing that I've discovered that you can do is, if you muck up the angle of your tail planes or any of your hold down pegs, you can again heat these up, just gently warm them until the glue starts to soften, and then you can twist these. I can't twist this one because it's got a big chunk taken out of it, but the one thing I have discovered with this technique is that when you carve an opening like this, you have to be very, very careful that you don't create a little nick, a jagged nick, because the can will tear, and I'll just demonstrate that now. So that's a relatively intact can, and it's quite able to take a fair bit of pressure, but this opening, I created it with a little bit of a nick in it, and I'll just grab this and tear this, you watch. So you have to be very careful when you create openings. And of course, once you've lost its shape, put a kink in it, then the thing will collapse very easily. But as long as you don't create a little tear, and as long as you maintain shape, which is the whole purpose behind these things, is to keep the belly of the can in shape, then making these cans, making a fuselage out of aluminium seems to be quite useful, quite strong. And of course, there's plenty of these knocking around, as long as you keep drinking, of course. Anyway, we'll press on now, and we will glue this down. This is going to be the platform that I'm going to hold my wing down onto with my rubber bands. Once it's glued in place and gone off, I will then use a hot wire to hollow out this hole so that I can get to these, or at least I can see these. I might not actually hollow them out. In actual fact, I might just leave that alone and just glue that over the top. There's no real requirement, I don't believe, for me to get in there. And if I need to get in there in the future, I can just hot wire that out sometime in the future. But anyway, let's see what happens. Now, another little technique I've discovered with cans is that when you slice them open, no matter how you do it, you end up with a very jagged edge, a very sharp edge, rather, not a jagged edge, but a very sharp edge. And if you work a round object like the shaft of a screwdriver along that edge, just by working the screwdriver backwards and forwards, aluminium is relatively malleable. You can cause the edge to roll over like that. If you do it very carefully, like I've done here, you can get the aluminium to turn back on itself, and then it's actually even stronger. But the important thing is to avoid any nicks. There's a nick there. Once you've got a nick, it tears very easily. It tears just as easily as paper. I guess if you adhere to the general principles, it's quite strong. Anyway, over to you guys to experiment. If somebody comes up with a better technique to use these cans, or a better construction technique, and you put it on YouTube or on the internet, or if you come across somebody who's done something better with them on the internet, you know, in the comments section, leave a link. I'd be dead keen to know. Yeah, I've just decided to put this thing on the workbench this way up until the glue goes off, because I want to avoid the glue from ending up around my servos. So I've glued my panel on over here. I've tried the two servos for the tailplane, they're working successfully. If I need to, I've got a couple of guide marks on the side of the aircraft here. I'll be able to cut a little hole there to get access to them. I don't need to at the moment. I thought what we might try to do just at the moment is see how the CG's working out. I slip that like that. Here's the CG. And there you go, it's right. The CG is almost pretty close to that front peg, which is okay, because if I need to, I can shift that back, and then the CG moves back a bit. Yep. And the other thing I can do is I can shorten the nose. If I need my CG to move further back, I can shorten this up, because the nose actually has, it's got a glue section there and a glue section there, so these two are quite close together. I can even probably eliminate an entire section just by pulling that off of there, heating it up gently, pulling that out of there. But we'll see what happens when we fit a wing onto it, which is probably the next test. better view of the entire craft. And my messy workbench. Well, as you're able to see, we've had to cut our hole down into our servos here. Not because I needed to get access to the servos, but because I needed some place to tuck that connector on the lower surface of the wing when I put it on there. And well, I connect the connector first to the aileron controls on the wing, and then once it's connected and I put the wing down on there, I need a place to tuck that. So I've had to cut that little hole out. I've finished my antenna supports. You can see the tip of the antenna sticking out the ends of those plastic tubes, and down in there I've got my receiver mounted with everything connected and a little piece of foam holding that receiver in place to stop it from shifting in flight, because if it shifts in flight it'll pull these antennas out of these little tubes, and once these antennas drop into the inside, you know, if they get pulled back into the inside of this can, I'll lose signal. The speed controller I've just glued on the outside there, and you just tape the connectors and things in place. I've got to mount a propeller yet. Right, now we'll just try fitting a flight battery in here. This is my Pilot Pete battery. If you're in New Zealand, you'll know who Pilot Pete is. It was bought in 2019, so she's getting a bit on that battery. Just going to tuck it in here. Okay. This little rubber donut, or this little foam donut's going to go in here like this. Turn it sideways like that. Right, we've come outside for this test. It's a bit windy. Okay. There we go. That's exciting. We've got some sort of oscillation at the front here, and the propeller just flew apart. I'll just try a different prop. Oh, just blew a propeller to pieces.
Oh,
you know that strange noise that it made when I was...
yeah?
Yeah, well I came down here, came outside because it makes that much draft in my workshop that all of the foam and bits and pieces start moving around.
So what happened to it?
It just flew to pieces.
Oh, there's a bit under the
There's
tyre
a piece underneath the back of the car there, yeah. So,
is it too strong? Why would it do that?
oh, I have no idea. little pink tin cans flying. Another low pass. We've had a couple of good flights. I need to turn everything off. Unfortunately, I've bent a prop shaft on landing, so that's not quite so good. You obviously need a folding prop with this style of aircraft. Anyway, good flight. And a canned fuselage actually works.